Why can't that person just go and get financial advice?
Right.
It's not necessarily the advice that they're lacking.
The most financially stressed and anxious people I've ever seen are people on millions of dollars at banks.
Someone who makes a good coach is someone who's got a lot of life experience.
You know, having worked over in England and America, I'm a bit cranky that every Aussie doesn't retire and get the pension. I think that's a bit mean. You pay tax your whole life and you don't get a pension. Do in America, you get Social Security, and you do in England. But the Aussie system was set up right from the get-go back in 1915, whenever the bill was passed, to be that way, and that's fine. But we've set up this superannuation system that was meant to kind of, pay for people's retirement.
Welcome to the My Money Circle podcast. I'm Rebecca Maher.
I'm Anthony Matthews.
Let's get into today's podcast. Welcome to episode 1 of the Money Circle podcast. We're here, Anthony. We are finally doing the podcast on video, of all things.
It's always easy to map things out and have ideas, very hard to bring them to life.
It is.
Here we are.
It is. So it's probably a good idea to start by talking about who we are and why we're doing a podcast in the first place, and what we envisage for the My Money Circle podcast, what we hope to talk about. So perhaps I'll start by talking about what we do and why we do it, and then a bit about myself, and can bring you in as well.
We've only got 2 hours for that. So, yeah. Let's be focused.
So the podcast, the My Money Circle podcast, how will it be different? What will people learn? Why are we here? We are a business we're a financial coaching company. We work with individuals, with employers, and with partners to help people feel more confident, clear about their money, and to help them feel supported in making financial decisions. And we wanted to do a podcast that was a little bit different. So many podcasts about money these days, they're either female focused, they're 2 blokes sitting together having a chat about money or investing. But we are a team that's come together over the last couple of years to build the business that is My Money Circle, and we're obviously different visually and in so many other ways. But we have a shared mission and passion about financial inclusiveness, about doing hard things, and about building this business which is designed to really support people who are stuck between not being able to see or work with a financial advisor, and who are feeling lost with just all the education and social media content out there about money. So I'm happy to intro myself first as a starting point. So my background, obviously, I come from financial advice. I spent some time in the industry as an advisor. I've worked in the corporate side of financial services, in product management, and I've spent a large part of my working life self-employed and running businesses. So I have really seen the gap, the money gap or the advice gap firsthand from a number of different angles. Whether it's from a product perspective, from an advice perspective, and then even as a coach, when I worked for myself in a business, I just saw how the space between the help that people needed every day with money and the kind of help that was available to people, that was widening. There was really not a lot coming into the middle to help people genuinely and practically with the everyday decisions around money. A lot of it's product-led. We get apps, we've got investment apps, we've got budgeting apps, we've got now superannuation apps, rounding up. We've got
whole invasion soon of agents and AI helpers.
Yeah. We've got there's been huge leaps and bounds in tech, which has, in many ways increased ability of product and investing and saving and things. But it's still, all of that access has not really improved confidence, and it hasn't helped people feel more confident in their own behaviours, in their own decisions, in the way that they can independently get along with making their own choices
And
about
not just
money.
individuals, whole groups of people. Like we've got this amazing financial system, but big groups of people are left out. It's not inclusive at the moment.
No,
either.
it's not inclusive. And so we've come, I came from that background. I saw that problem, and I just thought, I became committed, almost obsessed in a way with building a solution that was going to work for everyday people. It was flexible enough to help people on an ad hoc basis, that was suitable, where you could work with a coach over a longer term basis. But also no issue was too small to bring to someone, and no issue was too big really either to sit down and work through over a longer period of time. So that's sort of my background. I come from the industry, and I've been on this mission to build a financial coaching solution for Australians for the better part of the last 10 years. And then you came along.
Well, and it's a great segue, because I love the mission and I love the trajectory that it's taken you to get here. My trajectory is probably coming in the exact opposite direction, because for most of my career, and don't, as I always say, hold it against me, but I was an investment banker and worked in financial markets overseas mainly for many years for a big Aussie bank, and then another investment bank. So I've seen the other side of it, where what happens when you have access to enormous amounts of data, enormous amounts of information, and there are whole teams of people just dedicated to strategy, to packaging up information for big investors, big institutional investors, big hedge funds. So it's the equivalent offshore of big superannuation funds. And the people that run those firms have access and resources that are mind-blowing. You get economists coming and seeing you. You get access to government officials. And part of my role back in the day was to host those and to actually be the coordinator of information flows between the clients and what they were thinking of doing in markets. And then that would get fed into the bank to be, how to make a market in those securities, or how to ensure that the needs of the clients were met. But it was really interesting in that journey, and having gotten lots of qualifications in finance and so on as well. But being on the inside of that big machine there, it was very clear to me that it was quite a narrow, not elite, but the system is engineered to have that concentration at the very top, and it makes sense. It's not a malign thing. That's where the money is. I think there was that old saying, Willie Horton, right? Why do you rob banks, Willie? Well, that's where the money is. So why have we engineered our financial system like this? Well, that's where the money is. So, but that doesn't solve the problem that we've got then. There's a lot of people getting a lot of information that manage your money, but the flip side is the individuals are not really empowered in that. There's a big gap between what you understand your money is doing in super and what you feel your control is over that money. And it's the same with buying a house, what they call in markets information asymmetries. There's a lot of information over here, but you don't have all the information.
Yeah.
So, it's one of the things that I thought was absolutely brilliant about the work you've done and the business that you got going here with Money Circle was bridging that gap. People can do a lot. There's books you can read, there's famous finfluencers you can follow, but you can also, again, if you've got the money and the resources, you can go and get formal financial advice. But that's a bit intimidating. It's very structured, and the way that those firms make money is to have a relationship, but also a velocity of those relationships. There's not a lot of time they have to build those deep knowing relationships where people are open about all sorts of money issues, not just should I buy this fund or switch into that fund. They really want to know, I've got some anxieties about how to leave money to my kids, or am I invested correctly, or how am I going against my peers? So that's why I think the forum that we're setting up here is going to answer those questions. It's not intimidating. You don't need a certain amount of money to come and have a couple of coaching sessions. Our coaches are all financial experts, but the underlying thesis of this business is we want a relationship, and we want to help you get to a better place and get a plan. You may then go and get financial advice. You may then go and move your money to a big wealth manager.
Yeah.
But let's help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you touched on it there with the importance of advice and coming from advice. I understand and respect and value the value in financial advice. But we often talk about, and financial advisors will talk about this as well, as, a lot of people that they have to work with their ideal client because that is their business model. It allows them to run a commercially viable operation or business, and it helps them with their relationship with their clients because they understand their issues deeply and they can build an advice model or program around them. There's very few advisors that work sort of multi-generational and across a multitude of occupations and a multitude of different asset bases and capital bases and income bases even. So by design, it's an exclusive kind of service offering financial advice. What we instead realize that is needed is that we need something that's more inclusive.
Yeah.
And that does work and serve people across different income bases, because what we know for sure is that financial stress, a lack of confidence, a lack of clarity, and certainty around money and financial futures has nothing really to do with income. I mean, we've spoken about that before. People on multi-six-figure, nearing seven-figure incomes can be as stressed and unhappy and scared about their finances and
Some
their
of the most
financial
financially
future.
stressed and anxious people I've ever seen are people on millions of dollars at
Yep.
banks and working at hedge funds. And also, even though they're kind of at the cutting edge or kind of like an output end of not a great education and so on process or management of their own money process, there's also people that in banking and finance, I was amazed that there's no financial plan.
Yeah.
And money comes in and then money goes out. And as they got promoted and as they moved up, the spending went up. Or they never spoke with their spouse about, well, should we be leasing 7 Mercedes? And I think all of us suffer a little bit from that, right? Like,
absolutely.
When we look at I think we'd be horrified if you look back at your credit card from 5 years ago to now going, wow, okay. I was earning good money back then, thought had plenty over every month. Now I'm earning even more and there's less over every month.
Well, we'll save that cost of living chat for a whole episode. But I think the point you're making is right. Income is not a predicator of stress or no stress when it comes to money management. Some people think, well, if you're earning a couple of $250,000 a year plus, you can afford a financial advisor. Maybe that's right. But that brings us on to the other part of what we do as a business and the service that we provide clients and the gap that we really fill in the broader industry where nobody is servicing that need well and at scale is mindset, and behaviors and how we think and feel about money. Because even, whatever your income level and whoever you are as an individual, wherever you've come from, and wherever you are right now, we all have our own mental model of the world. And that's informed by our upbringing, culture, our education, our experiences. It's just so many different aspects. Some, we could get really spiritual, but even our inherited memories and things like this. So one of the things that people fail to realize until they've sort of explored this area is that a lot of the stress and around money, a lot of the lack of clarity around money, and a lot of our behaviours subconsciously around money very much are driven by all of those things. And something people collectively sort of refer to as our individual money mindset. Now, it's really not that much of a stretch to think or accept that we all have a money mindset. It's a little bit of a woo-ha term. People think that it's a little bit fluffy, but I mean, we all can agree that we have a mental model of the world when it comes to lots of different parts of our lives. You know, the way that we think about relationships, the way that we think about exercise and diet, the way that we think about work and career versus, you know, being a business owner or an entrepreneur. Yeah. So everyone is easily accepting of the fact that, you know, we have a bit of a lean or a behavioural angle on those things. But when it comes to money, it's like, no, but it's just a thing. Like it's not, we're not driven by how we think or, you know, how we were brought up or even some sort of subconscious story going on in our head. And then the truth is that we are. But I guess the reason I talk about that so much is because when we talk about people who are on, you know, higher incomes, and someone might say, well, why can't that person just go and get financial advice, as an example? It's not necessarily the advice that they're lacking or craving even. A lot of people, and this is at any income level again, people know fundamentally what they should do with their money. Yeah. You know, at a very high level. Spend less than you earn, invest some of that. Maybe purchase a house at some point, provide yourselves with some security, contribute something to your retirement, maybe stretch yourself to some insurances as a risk mitigation. Like the actual, you know, plan for 80 to 90% of people is the same thing. So people kind of know what to do. It's the devil's in the detail. Yeah. But before you even get to the detail, a lot of it is emotional, behavioural and mindset related. And that's one of the things that coaching addresses fundamentally, as well as the practical side of helping people get a plan.
And it isn't woolly, because at the other end, as I was saying before, these elite financial kind of circles, it was fascinating the number of discussions I'd have when you're like a client lunch or, you know, out talking with people and it's a little bit more informal rather than the market. The number of times the conversation would turn to people like Kahneman and Tversky and about the mental models that they had. Famous book about thinking fast and thinking slow. And they even looked at coming up with theories about, you know, how your primitive kind of brain interacts with your sensible brain, the more evolved brain on top, and there's the conflict in there. All the way over to the huge amount of work that's been done with, you know, from James Nash and in behavioural finance as well, that whole body of knowledge, where things like loss aversion, anchoring and so on, there's been a huge amount of research. So we know all that. Yeah. But again, it's bringing that knowledge to people, and not in an academic way. You know, I think there's just such a huge thirst and a need for financial literacy and education, but to be packaged appropriately for what people want. Yeah. There is a lot of research on that. And the people that invest in trade markets have studied it because it's key. And so you're talking about the emotional and behavioural side. They've looked at it from the academic side as well. So these are people with millions generally and billions of dollars under management, and they think it's important. Yeah. So it's actually critical, because the whole human psyche of humans, when they gain something, there's obviously, you know, the satisfaction and joy of making, let's say, $100 or something. If you're having an investment or a punt or gambling, we're all defining what that is at the moment in many markets, particularly the US.
$100, the cost of living, that's pretty good.
I know. Pay for your petrol for a day or two. And then, but if we lose $10, that is much more. People will do anything to avoid losing money. Yeah. Even at the cost of possibly making money. So a lot of the time it's just a little insight in like, well, maybe I won't engage with my super, or maybe I won't go and talk to someone because I might muck it up and I don't know enough to start engaging.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that, no, embrace it and go for it, because this is an easy on-ramp to getting knowledge, and that then gives you the confidence to take some actions. When you understand something, you're like, oh, it wasn't as scary as I thought, and actually I'll do something about it. And when you're young, I can tell you get old pretty quickly. And when you're young, you've got time to take some losses. You've got time to make gains. You've got time, one of the fascinating things I think should be absolutely taught over and over at school is my boss used to say, Albert Einstein said the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. And if you just save a certain amount of money every month and you look at the tables of compound interest, it's incredible. And but it's predicated on time. If you start trying to save for your retirement at 50, that's very different from when you start at 20.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on confidence and that the lack of knowledge being something that stops a lot of people from taking action. I think people just auto default to that being the reason as well. We think that we all think we don't know enough about anything to start. Business, we're like, we don't know enough yet. Like, we don't know how to do this. We don't know how to do that. I really need to learn more about this part before I can actually launch the business. Career, there's so many areas of life where we think we don't know enough to do something. And money is one of those things. And a lot of people think, and this is where we come back to mindset and stories, that they don't have enough knowledge to make a decision. The reality, though, when you think about it, though, is that you probably do have enough knowledge. Like, you don't need to know everything about the financial markets. You don't need to know everything about superannuation. You don't need to know everything about, running it used to be spreadsheets, but you don't even need that nowadays with tools. And we've lived in an information age with the internet, but now with AI, I mean, we've got vast amount of information, but weirdly not a lot of help. Exactly, weirdly not a lot of help. And
so look, if somebody is interested and they want to engage, like what? Maybe a little quick précis of what would happen if you sign up and get a coaching session. Like, how would it work, and what would you talk about?
Yeah, so coaching, what we do, we've got a coaching platform. So what we do is we said, look, instead of giving you a chat interface, because that doesn't work. I mean, it works to a point, it leaves people with more questions than when they started. And then we know, what an advisor does and offers. But what we do is different. We offer financial coaching. It's a new sort of market and offering here in Australia. It's widely and it's more prolific and mature in the US and the UK. But we allow people to come onto the platform. They create an account. We match them based on their onboarding. Ask them a couple of questions about what their priorities are.
So you get matched to your own coach, and every time you get back in touch, it's the same coach, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we match people to their coach, and that's a human that's then dedicated to them. It's a relationship. So you get started. You've typically come with a goal or a problem or a challenge that you want some guidance around. That looks like a couple of sessions to get you started, just to unpack what's going on or what you want to do. And then across 2 sessions.
And the people don't have to lie on a couch, right? It's not like a psychotherapy session.
No, it's not counselling or psychology. There's a level of working with you through what is challenging to manage.
Yeah.
Money.
And you choose what you want to talk about. There's not a formula.
That's right. There's no packages. There's no
Mm.
programs. You don't come in and, make you sit down and watch 10 videos and everyone watches the same 10 videos and then you walk away.
And there's not 37 pages of, disclosures and compliance up front.
No, you don't have to tell us your entire life story or financial situation. You share as much as you want initially on the financial front. But what the coach's role is, and what the role of a coach is generally, is to help figure out where you are right now.
Yep.
Help figure out and provide some clarity around what the goal is,
Yeah.
or what the challenge is, or what the blocker is,
Yeah.
or what the aspiration is,
Yeah.
or the financial aim that you've got as the immediate priority.
So
there
they
may
are
be
a coach,
many.
aren't they? They're not there to say, hey, you should be buying, you don't have enough Bitcoin, or
No.
you should be buying some more gold. They're
No.
there really to fill in the gaps for you and to elevate your knowledge. It's not,
There's a level of knowledge transfer for sure, and learning, but in a practical sense,
Yeah.
like on the
Yep.
topic or the thing that you've come to learn to discuss, just like with any professional.
Yep.
But the goal is really to have that human interaction and the support. And the other thing that coaching gives or offers is life experience, or lived experience.
Yeah.
So, when you compare it to talking with a chatbot about your situation, that's a transfer of knowledge
Yep.
or information.
Yep. And it has its place.
And it has its
Going
place.
to have a bigger and bigger place.
It has its place, for sure. And I would encourage people to cautiously, depending on what they are asking it and relying on it to make decisions for, because there are issues, some issues with that. But from an emotional point of view,
Yeah.
but then when you look at what's absent in that interaction and what coaching, which is human-led, just like you and I having a chat, it's you and your coach having a chat, there's a level of, you're a human, I'm a human, we've both probably travelled the same road on this particular topic, and not only have we travelled the same road from a life experiences point of view and a human experiences point of view, but if you're my coach, you've also got a level of domain expertise in this topic as well to bring to this conversation and guide and help around this challenge, goal, aim, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's something that's incredibly valuable in this environment. Information overload is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to accelerate and worsen as a problem, particularly around the matter of finances. Even more so when times are challenging.
Yeah.
I find even myself, the news media is typically flooded with bad news, which creates a level of anxiety and further confusion or overwhelm. When people try to self-discover the way forward in that state, it's really quite challenging.
Yeah.
Because
it just seems just a giant. You need to know so much just to start. Is the feeling so many people seem to have.
You feel, especially if that is the story that you've got. You tell yourself, I don't know enough about this to do anything about it yet.
Yeah.
And I touched on that earlier, but that is a really common problem.
Yeah.
And often when we examine it and think about it in more detail and work through that story or that thought process, the logical answer is that we do probably know enough.
Yeah.
But if we dig a little bit deeper, it's usually a fear of something. So a fear of making the wrong decision.
Right.
So again, that comes back to not trusting ourselves.
Yep.
That's come from somewhere, most likely.
Yep.
Maybe it was a bad decision at some point. Maybe it was an inherited decision. So often, people will be the victim of a spouse or a partner's poor decision-making or a family's poor decision-making, which then they...
Or maybe no knowledge. Maybe mum and dad just, provided a good, comfortable upbringing for the kids, but there wasn't a discussion about checking accounts and
that's the other...
how much to put aside. And should you go, at the beginning of your career, go and borrow as much money as possible to buy a house, or should you save for retirement and rent? Like, those are those discussions that maybe didn't happen.
I think there's a myriad of situations that people have come from and mindsets that people are sitting with. So the point, I guess, is that whatever the story is, starting with a conversation, especially in a coaching scenario, is a great way to even just explore whether that's legitimate or not,
Yeah.
and to empower you to just move past that.
Yeah.
You may be then in a position to adequately make the next 2 or 3 steps
Yeah.
on your financial path yourself. Or you may benefit from further help.
Yeah. A
But-
friend of mine put it really well, I thought, back when we were kind of getting all of this kind of framed up. And he said, it's kind of like, if you use a medical analogy, it's kind of like if you have a symptom and you Google it, you'll Google or ChatGPT will tell you, well, this looks pretty fatal, this small thing you've just looked up that's appeared on your hand, probably fatal. Here's all horrible photos of how your hand's going to wither. Then you're like, well, I am concerned about it. A week later, you go see a GP. And the GP is somebody with broad knowledge, knows a little bit about a lot, has lived experience by seeing heaps of people with this same kind of thing on their hand.
Yeah.
Can give you some general advice. Mm-hmm. And then if you're still concerned, the GP can go, you know what, you understand what's going on here now. I've had a chat with you. How about I refer you to a specialist? And he was saying this is what I think should be happening with money as well. But what we're happening at the moment is we've got the first piece. People can kind of do some self-research. Super industry's trying to provide education. But again, and that's only on super. There are other resources there. Or you can go see a formal financial advisor. And this is we're missing the money GPs. Mm-hmm. So this is what we're trying to bring into the picture here.
Yeah.
Somebody that can give you general advice. You know them. They're the family doctor, but for money. And off you go. When you're ready, go see a specialist. And then you can go get MRIs and all that. But you don't see your GP to get an MRI or, scans and so on. So to me, that's a good working analogy for what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And then we've built the business to create a service that's not just accessible but flexible by design. And what I mean by that is it's less rigid in terms of the ongoing relationship. So people can come and have their initial 2 sessions, and then that may be all that they need depending on their situation. But we do offer and have created an inner circle, which is an opportunity for people to continue to work with their coach.
Your financial expert on demand.
Throughout the year for a fraction of what it would cost to see or to have a similar ongoing relationship with an advisor. And that relationship would be very different to the relationship that we offer as insider coaching arrangement.
And we'd be delighted if everybody that we did the money coaching for went on to get financial advice. This is not instead of or better than. No. It's just a piece of the journey.
Absolutely. It's a money friend, right?
Yeah.
It's the ability for you to partner with a group or a community, really, is what we've built and building, for support and guidance and accountability for those who want and need it. That's sort of not really spoken about a lot either. Yep. Not everybody wants accountability. Not everyone's ready for it, but some people do.
My younger days, I used to shirk it very actively. No, I'm kidding. I ran towards accountability.
Accountability is, everyone needs accountability at some point.
Yes.
But you have to
It's your money.
You have to be ready for it.
And you're going to retire at some point.
Yeah.
You have to grasp this and work out. And look, the idea of super here is amazing. Yeah. Having worked over in England and America, I'm a bit cranky that every Aussie doesn't retire and get the pension. I think that's a bit mean.
Ooh.
You pay tax your whole life and you don't get a pension.
Yeah.
Do in America, you get Social Security, and you do in England.
Yeah.
But the Aussie system was set up right from the get-go back in 1915, whenever the bill was passed, to be that way, and that's fine. But we've set up this superannuation system that was meant to kind of, pay for people's retirement or fund their retirement. And it's an awesome system. So, but you do have to understand it and, as you say, take accountability of it, because at the end of the day, when you not even a certain age, but when you want to retire, when you choose to retire, you need to have the resources to do that. And it's up to you.
Yeah, and if you want the ability to choose to retire.
Yes.
So
otherwise, you'll be getting your check from people, and, they may be a little bit more in your life than you want them to be too.
But even well before retirement, I mean, there's so many periods through life that are challenging or that create a shock. Life events. So divorce, separation, a health event is another major one.
Yep.
And then, you've got the typical periods of life. Like I'm in the very nearly 40s. And that is, you can speak to in reflection, a challenging period because you've got mortgage debt, you've got kids and school fees, and then you've got all the shrinking, you're on the serious road to the end of your working. No, I'm sorry, I really should be more considerate, but
this feels like psychosocial challenges for me.
You're the second couple of decades to retirement.
But you've done all that
entering
work.
A new world.
In your 20s and 30s, you've built that base. You've got great knowledge of the field or fields that you've been in your 20s, and now you're in your peak earning years in 40s and 50s. You got kids, you got a big old mortgage that you're paying down. But then, as you say, these are great periods, but you're coming into a very big transitional period, which is mum and dad also might have health issues.
Yes, that's the other thing. Aging parents, which I have I can speak from lived experience. My dad's 80, so.
And a lot of those folks, and I know it's a bit trendy on Instagram, or whatever the young people use in these kind of forums, but it's a bit trendy to say there's intergenerational problems and the boomers have all the money, but the whole economy globally has changed with, the whole evolution of debt markets and just the amount of leverage people can have now, and asset prices in everything has gone up.
Yeah.
And houses in Australia is no exception. But that's also a policy decision why houses are going up. It's not just because boomers had lots of money. But, it's just the confluence of those things. And as you say, maybe a health scare or maybe a divorce coming in at that time. Having a plan is so key.
Yeah.
And just having a plan with your partner is super key as well.
Yeah.
Because just anecdotally, a lot of my friends, their parents, they might be living in a very expensive house in Melbourne or Sydney.
Yeah.
But the lesson, again, why you probably need a financial coach is there's just not enough income being generated by the assets they have, because they were in that cohort that went through before everybody was really piling into super. So even though they've done well on their house price that's inflated up, there might not be a lot of money to live on. So the kids are like, well, I might buy a piece of the house, or I might have to help mum and dad. So these are, and our society is just getting trickier as the years go by.
Yes.
So
there's just so many conversations that need to happen. And then just finally on the retirement, I was listening on the radio on the way here even, and people were talking about, and this was in America, but it's the same here. The cost of living is rising, or has been rising for the better part of nearly 5 years now. And for people in retirement who have retired recently, they've made plans and figured out what their cost of living will be pre-cost of living increases. So it's just survive on a fixed income.
Yep.
And now, that's now jumped maybe 20-ish +% per annum or more, depending on what their actual cost of living was. And so what do they do? Those are really tricky times to navigate. And the answer is there's parts of all of this that are, advice related in terms of how investments might be managed and what things are done.
And your portfolio construction and all of that. Yes.
But there's a real conversation that sits in the financial coaching space
before that process.
And around it too.
Yes.
So the bits that deal with, anxiety, the bits that deal with even disappointment, and call it what you want, just disappointment. It could be, in some instances people might have some shame, rightly or wrongly, fear, anger, frustration.
And, well, it's FOMO for the younger generation, isn't it? Like, oh, all my friends are making money on Ether or Bitcoin or meme stocks.
That's right.
Should I do that? And I
Right.
just see a lot of people making not very good risk decisions with their money. But I understand, again, it comes to your money story and your money mindset. I guess if you're like my kids, you know, just at uni now, they're like, how are we going to afford a house? Like, unless we get help from you and mum, there's no way, like with a median house price of $1 million in Aussie cities, that our kids can afford a house until they're probably, even if they save hard.
Yes, well, that's right.
And so it's a bit daunting, and I could see why maybe that then your mindset will be, look, well, I'll rent, and then maybe I just need to get a really aggressive return on what money I am saving. So I will take a lot more risk than probably would look like to me to be sensible to take. But they're like, well, I will put a lot more money into a fewer stocks or some of these new assets that have come along. I totally understand it.
Yeah. So I think the key is that what's been missing is a space to have and hold conversations about money on a more frequent basis that don't lead necessarily to advice or aren't attached to formal financial advice. A lot of people need what comes before that, which is guidance, really. It's a conversation about how they're feeling and what they want in life.
Right.
Which is more to do with who they are, where they want to go, what their mindset is, what their goals are, and, you know, how their money is currently showing up in their life and how they want it to show up in their life and what they want it to be able to enable versus hinder. And then the guidance around next steps, options, you know, and what they could start to do from a practical point of view with their money and finances, what they could do from a practical point of view around behaviours and planning. And then there's a really big piece around the support and accountability as life changes.
Yeah.
You know, money is one of those things. It's like it's always there. It's needed. It's a necessity. It's a tool that enables us to do things, pay for things, afford things, and essentially exist at whatever sort of level that we want to exist or can. And it's not something necessarily that we set and forget ever. We need to keep returning to it. And what happens on our journey, our life journey, our work journey, our relationship journey, all of those things impact and affect our relationship with money and how we feel about it over time. And we need to be able to go somewhere and come somewhere to have those conversations, reset, course correct, and create a new way forward. Some people can do that with a spouse. Some people can do it with a parent or someone in their inner circle. But many people don't have that. And they never get to a place where they can have that kind of money relationship or chat with any of those people. And even if they could, some people don't want to, because for all the reasons we've talked about, you don't necessarily want to discuss everything with those people.
Yeah. And you know what? Everyone's busy.
Yeah. Oh, there's that too, right?
Busyness just gets in the way. And you're like, well, my super's going in there and those people are experts. I'll leave it there. I'm saving as much as I can over in my little bucket here. And then we're madly saving for a house. So there's not much more I can do. So I'll just, but no, there is a lot more. Like just little poor financial decisions maybe, or ones might not be poor, but you need to think deeply about. Like I can think of everything from like betting accounts or things like that where, you know, discretionary shopping trips. If you feel a bit down, I'll go and buy, you know, a new outfit or whatever. Or there's anxiety at work, or, you know, is AI going to take my job? And then there's an impulse for a lot of people to go and feel better by spending a bit of money on themselves. Oh, I deserve it.
Yeah.
But as I was saying earlier, that compounds over 20, 30 years. So money becomes an escape. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the important discussions is turning that escape fight, the fight or flight. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get away from this problem and use money to get away from it. But I think there's a discussion about owning that and understanding it, and then the satisfaction and relief from having a plan that incorporates all of those things. And then, as you say, reviewing it with your partner and reviewing it every year to see if it's still match fit.
Yeah.
I look back over the last 20 years and it's amazing, like how when you look forward, you're like, oh, well, over the next few years, I don't think much will change. Well, look back 10 years.
Yeah.
It changes.
It does.
And it changes fast, and you need a plan. So that's why we're here with the guides, at least in this particular part of life, to help you out.
Yeah. So that's a bit about what we do. And then this podcast, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about in the next episodes? What kind of things are we going to talk about? Honest conversations about money. What's hard? What's wrong?
And then I think we'll spotlight a few things. I think there's some interest in maybe understanding, what are interest rates? How do they move? Who sets them?
Yeah.
Is there what are these bond markets? What's an ETF? We can do those kinds of little knowledge, educational pieces as well.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough out there with people who aren't licensed giving out plenty of financial information.
Yeah.
So we don't want to go down that path. But I think we just want to continue chatting about news of the day, like cost of living is an obvious one, but keep it very informal. I don't think we want to come in with a script.
No. I think the good thing about us is you've got a pretty extensive international career. Mm-hmm. Good on you.
Thank you.
And I've done a lot of different things in my career.
Yeah, which is great.
And I've got the background in advice, but I've spent a lot of time in this coaching space.
Yeah.
So I bring that sort of,
But being a great coach, I think, needs a great set of experiences.
A breadth of experiences. Yeah. I was thinking about that before, what makes a good coach? Because we hire a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite a difficult thing to do because it's not a designated profession per se. There's no sort of like dedicated qualification.
There's no
at
exam.
This point.
It's not like, well, you could be a great coach, but unfortunately you don't really have very good EQ.
Yeah.
So, or you're not a warm person, you can't be a coach.
There is a lot of things that go into to being a good coach. You kind of have to have the IQ and the EQ.
Yes.
But to sum it up, it's really it's someone who makes a good coach is someone who's got a lot of life experience themselves. Ideally, they've got some life experience in the domain that they're coaching in too. Yep. That's helpful. So backgrounds in this case in financial advice or financial services in client-facing roles.
Yeah.
So that they understand that world and the options and decisions and they just have the professional expertise in the field. But the bigger thing is also they've got a lot of their own lived experience or life experience in general. So, people that have lived a little bit and whether that's bought and sold businesses or started and had businesses that have failed or been through separations and divorces themselves or been in long-term relationships and therefore know what takes a successful relationship from a money management point of view. People who've had health events, people who have, done and tried and failed and gone through the struggles that are the things that we all have at some point in our life. Very fortunate to get through life without any bumps in the road. So that's what makes a good coach. And so I guess we've got enough of our own life and lived experiences and we may or may not touch on some of those in some episodes, just as some trailers.
That would be podcasting after dark, those ones. They would be going to too many challenging places.
Extended family podcast. But that's the breadth of what we're trying to bring to the podcast. Different a very international corporate career, a
Yeah.
very, DIY sort of startup background with me, and really just a shared view and passion for trying to solve the gap that is, where and how can Australians be better supported
Exactly.
with their finances on
Yep.
a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
And, you bring the macro,
Yep.
I'll bring the behavioural finance lens, and we'll just see how and where this goes.
We'll keep it
How
warm,
helpful we can be.
informal, and if people
Yeah.
can get financial news all over the place. So
Yeah.
we're going to bring interpretation of
Yeah.
financials and money for you.
And we'll just have to make sure that you don't waffle too much. But
No, I know. I get told. Rambling.
apparently I ramble.
Somebody rambles,
Yeah.
but loves process, which is kind of one of those
I know, it's weird, isn't
weird
it?
things.
I'm
I go off topic. That's
We need to wrap you up
I
sometimes.
think the topics are very interesting, but they keep
Yeah.
veering further and further away.
Yeah.
And then I get lost what the original point was.
Yes.
But at least if you can keep up with the thread, and if I can keep up with the thread, hopefully it'll still end up net. People walk away going, "Oh, I actually learned something today," and hopefully it won't be. I'll learn never to listen to that again.
Might be, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, we can. That's fine.
That's fine.
We're very resilient here.
No
so
one's
that's
for
fine.
everyone.
Yeah,
And I think that's it.
lovely. Good start.
Likewise. See you in the next episode.
If you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, Maher, definitely follow along. And I'd love to see some questions. As you can tell, there's no shortage of us giving very long-winded answers to whatever intrigue and drama that you have going on in your life. So drop it in the chat. We'll engage and we'll make everybody happier and wealthier.